Susan Gardner here for Municipal World. We're at the 2019 Federation of Canadian Municipalities Conference in beautiful Quebec City. Joining me in the Municipal World Media Center is Michael Borrelli from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Susan.
Why don't you start off by telling us what the Nuclear Waste Management Organization is?
Sure. So the Nuclear Waste Management Organization, we usually say NWMO, is responsible for dealing with the long-term management of Canada's used nuclear fuel. So all of the reactor fuel that comes out from producing energy right now is safely managed above ground by the producers of that, and at some point in the future we will be taking over management of that and putting it in a deep geologic repository where it will be safely managed and keep the environment and people above ground safe forever.
So the organization has been involved in a search for a location to host the storage. Is that correct?
That's right.
So what does that look like?
So in around 2009, 2010, we launched a siting process, and we essentially invited all the municipalities in Saskatchewan and Ontario and New Brunswick and Quebec, since these are the nuclear provinces, to say, without any commitment, are you interested in learning more about this site selection process, about this larger project, which we call adaptive phase management? And after a period of waiting for some people to get back to us, we had 22 interested communities step forward. Again, no commitment. They just wanted to learn more, and we would learn about them at the same time. So since 2010, we've narrowed down. We're trying to find a single site for all of Canada's used nuclear fuel. We're now down to 5, and we hope to narrow down further again this year and eventually get down to a single site by 2023, at which point we'll start a very long licensing process and the job of constructing of the facility.
Okay, so this is obviously, this isn't a process where you just say who wants it and go into a community. We've been 10 years almost into the process now, so it is, I think it's fair to say, a very thoughtful process about where the site will be and taking that kind of long-term perspective as well on, what it means for the future. So from those 22 communities down to 5, what are kind of the factors that are going to be involved in choosing the final site?
Oh, really good question. We started with a sort of rough list of high-level screening criteria. So we wanted to make sure there was enough land in the municipality. We wanted to make sure that we could build it safely outside of, say, environmental or culturally significant areas. We wanted to make sure that what we knew about the geology of the area seemed to give us some confidence that when we did some further digging, that it would be suitable for this type of facility. So if there was the presence of, say, running water or some sort of mineral or commercially viable material underground, we didn't want to be there. We don't want to have fractures in the rock, so that was another criteria that we were looking at. So based on that first round of desktop studies, which were conducted between 2010 and 2014, around that time, we were able to narrow down to a smaller group of communities, which we've done progressively more detailed studies. So what we're looking at now are sort of the beyond geology or geological factors, and looking at the ability to have a partnership not only with the municipality but with the neighbors and their First Nation and Métis neighbors as well. So this is a long-term stewardship project. It's not a traditional relationship. The people that live in the community will be helping us steward Canada's used nuclear fuel for generations. So we have to be sure not only of the underground characteristics of the rock, but we want to make sure that above ground that the community will be better off for having hosted us, and that we'll be able to safely and securely manage this over the very, very long terms involved in this.
What does that engagement process look like with the community? Because, obviously, to make sure that the community is a willing host and that there is going to be that good relationship for a very long time into the future. that's got to be a special kind of engagement that happens.
It's lots of planes, trains, and automobiles. Our staff are everywhere all the time, just even coming through the airport to come here to Quebec City. I saw a number of my colleagues waiting in line to go through security. So we spend a lot of time in the communities. We've hired people in the communities as well to help us engage, have offices. So there's a number of, we call them Learn More centers in the communities where people can just walk in off the street, ask a little bit more, get some literature, hear a little bit from some of our videos or our other publicity material, and then if they have further questions, send their neighbors and come back. So we have people working there all the time. We're also spending a lot of time at the Municipal Association conferences to try to engage some of the neighbors. It's not enough just to work in the communities. We need to make sure that everyone knows about that. And that's one of the biggest messages that we've heard from Canadians, even since at the beginning of the organization back in 2002. Many people are surprised to know that right now the used fuel is above ground, right on the reactor sites, and we have to consistently remind people about what the current management system is and what we're looking to do with that long term. So we try to get out and do outreach, do education, and then as much as we can provide the information so that people can make an informed decision. Because ultimately, this site will only go in a willing and informed community, this facility. So it has to be one where people know what the material is, know what our plan is and what this project is about, and that they ultimately feel comfortable enough to say, yes, this is something we want to partner with you on.
And ultimately, it's about finding a better solution than what we have today and doing it in a way that is safe and secure in the long term.
Right. When we did our study between 2002 and 2005, there was a lot of people saying, well, why can't you just leave it the way that it is now? And more people saying that, well, if that's not a suitable alternative, especially over the long periods of time that this material could be hazardous, let's put it back where it came from, which is deep underground. The uranium ore that was dug up in Saskatchewan comes from deep underground. Now, of course, it's not going to be just placed under there haphazardly. The entire safety case, which is going to have to be demonstrated to our regulator and to many different safety authorities, is based on multiple barriers. So radiation is a type of energy that if you put a barrier in between you and that source, you can improve your safety. And essentially, we're building up on that case by having 5 major barriers between that radioactive source and the people in the environment. Of course, the largest one being that we're looking at placing the facility about 500 or 600 meters underground. That's a lot of rock. And that by itself is the barrier that will provide the most amount of shielding and safety for people in the environment.
Fantastic. So if communities, Canadians want to learn more about nuclear waste management and the challenges and the approach that's happening, the process that's happening right now, where do they go to do that?
Well, you can start with our website, www.nwmo.ca. We have also expanded into social media, so we have a Twitter account, an Instagram account, a Facebook account, even a LinkedIn account. The LinkedIn account is very interesting too because we put a lot of videos that feature some of our employees and how they got into the roles that they are now working in. They can also visit our Learn More centers if they happen to live near the communities that are in the site selection process. Those 5 remaining communities are Ignace in northwestern Ontario, Huron-Kinloss and Manitouwadge, which are sort of north of Superior, of Lake Superior there, and then Huron-Kinloss and South Bruce, which are located just south of the Bruce Nuclear Generating Facility in Kincardine. So those are the sort of most straightforward ways, and of course if you're attending FCM or any of the other large municipal conferences, I'll be here handing out materials as well.
I'll find you here. Okay. Thanks so much for coming in and sharing that with us.
Thanks very much, Susan.
Susan Gardner from Municipal World with Michael Borrelli from the Nuclear Waste Management Organization. We share your stories.